Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. This is a briefing about the Safar 1439 moon from www.central-mosque.com for the month of October. Unlike the previous months, this briefing will only be in English for me to make it as short as possible and to summarize the points in the least amount of time. ये briefing इंशाअल्लाह सिर्फ English में होगी और उर्दू में नहीं होगी. Jazakallah khair. Let's proceed. As I've said many times before, there's a phenomenon called the new moon conjunction. You can also call it new moon birth if you want. So what happens is here's the sun, here's the earth, and in between comes the moon. The moon, as you know, does not have light of its own. So when it's in the middle, there's no light being reflected on earth at all. This cannot be seen. So therefore in English it's called the dark moon. In Arabic it's called mahaq. The astronomical definition is new moon conjunction or new moon birth. Islam has absolutely nothing to do with this phenomenon. So when the new moon is being born, we don't really care. There's nothing in Islamic Sharia about that, except that sometimes during this new moon birth, you have something called a solar eclipse. If that solar eclipse is visible in your part of the world, for example, this area gets dark right here. So if you live in this part of the world, you see a solar eclipse, you can pray Salah, you can pray the prayer of solar eclipse. This is the Sunnah. Other than that, when this new moon conjunction happens, where it happens in Islam, it has absolutely nothing to do with it. From your eyesight, you will not be able to see that, as the English word itself says dark moon. In Arabic, mahaq. In English, this is called the new moon conjunction. In Arabic, it's called iqtaran al-markadi. Nothing to do with Islam whatsoever. Then what happens is after this phenomenon, the earth keeps spinning this way, the moon keeps climbing higher and higher until it reaches a point where the sunlight hits the moon and part of it gets back to you can see it. This is called the crescent in English, hilal in Arabic, and that's when the Islamic months start. So remember, this new moon conjunction, new moon birth has absolutely nothing to do with Islam. In Judaism, they take this into consideration and they start certain months. In Islam, it has absolutely nothing to do with it. We don't care. If there's a solar eclipse, again, it's a visual phenomenon. The sun goes dark. If you live in this part of the world and the sun is dark during the day, you pray Salah. Doesn't happen every month. Whenever you happen, you can see it. So this moon cannot be seen. Nothing to do with Islam. However, what actually happens is that the Qura calendar in Saudi Arabia, they say that this is based on for civil reasons and they don't use it for Islamic purposes. This Qura calendar is based on this new moon conjunction. They say that on top of Holy Kaaba, if the new moon is born and the moon set is after sunset, the next day is the new month. As I said to you before, Islam has nothing to do with this phenomenon whatsoever because they cannot be seen. So this Qura calendar is based on this. Now, what are the problems it causes? Problem number one. What they do is they try to sight the moon according to Qura. So when there's 29th of Sha'ban, for example, they try to sight the moon for Ramadan. Except that because it is based on conjunction, it is not the 29th, it is 28th. So they're citing everything a day earlier, number one. Number two, Saudi Arabia does not have a 12-month Islamic calendar. So for in this month of Safar, there will be no government official announcement. So if your mosque bases its calendar on Saudi Arabia, this month of Safar, you will be basing it on a pre-calculated calendar, which has nothing to do with Islam whatsoever. Remember that. Let's proceed with the moon sighting of Safar. This new moon is born on the 19th of October 2012. Again, it has nothing to do with Islam. It's just a scientific fact. The moon is being born. Fine. Happy with that. On that particular day, because the moon will set in some parts of the world right here, which are red, it means the moon will be set before the sunset. It cannot be seen. So at sunset, there is no moon to be seen. If the moon is set, there's nothing to be seen. Easy for you to understand. If there's sunset, there's no sun for you to see. When the moon is set, there's no moon for you to see. Very easy stuff. So on the 19th of October, this new moon cannot be seen in any parts of the world at all. The next day, on the 20th of October, this moon can be easily seen in parts of America. We are in the part of the year where it will be easier to see this moon in parts of America before the rest of the world. So parts of America, and I don't mean America the country, I mean the continent of America, North America, South America, Central America, and all of these regions will be able to see the new moon before everybody else. Now, I've talked about a phenomenon in many of my videos, which I call the domino effect. So what actually happens is if you're in any part of the globe, for example, you're in India, right here, you're in South India, and sunset happens, and you're flying to New York or London. So you're flying westward this way. So let's say the moon is taking off as the sunset is happening. As it goes this way, the sunset is later and later and later and later and later. So Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah ta'ala has said that if the moon is sighted in a particular location, as you travel westward, the chances of moon sighting will be greater. Why? Because the sunset is getting later, the moon will be brighter and higher in the sky. Go back to my first image. You see, the earth is spinning this way, the moon is climbing that way. So more time passes, the higher it gets. Okay, back to my 20th of October picture. So as you're traveling westward, the sunset is later, so there's a greater chance for the moon to be seen. Opposite of that is if you travel eastwards that way, the sunset is already happened. If you're in New York and the sunset happens, the sun is already set in London. Or if the sunset is happening in London, the sunset in New York will happen later because it's westwards. So if there are chances of this moon to be seen in Americas first, then that means chances of it being seen elsewhere earlier are slimmer. Common sense. So as you travel westward, sunset is later. As you travel eastward, sunset is earlier. So what happens in various parts of the world? What I was trying to do, I was trying to use an application of Stellarium and show you live what the sky looks like on the 20th of October, but I couldn't. So I've just taken some pictures. This is Miami. So remember that the sky has to get dark for the moon to be seen. The darker it is, the easier it is to see the moon. So the sun, when the sun is being set, it's quite lit up. The sky is quite lit up. So it's hard to see the moon, right? As the sun sets, the stars become visible. That means the sky gets dark. The moon is still there in Miami. So therefore, in parts of America, again, I don't mean America, the country. I am saying Americas, which means North America, South America, Caribbean, all these places. It'll be easy to see this moon on the 20th of October. Now, if we go back to our map again, if it's easy to see the moon here in North and South America and Caribbean and all of these places right here, this part of the world, the sun is already set. Therefore, many hours earlier, it is harder for you to see this moon in these parts of the world. Really common sense. So in this part of these parts of the year, the moon will be easily seen in this part of the world and later here, right? So that's exactly what you see in Miami. This is the sun about to set. The moon is still here, but you cannot really see it. The sky is still lit up until it gets dark. Boom, the moon is visible. The stars are there. You can see it easily. So Americas, there will be a great chance to see the moon. Europe, England, France, and so on and so forth, you can see the moon, but with binoculars or very powerful telescope. Morocco, in some parts of Morocco, it will be possible to see this moon. South Africa, again, because of the lag time, because you remember the sunset is now way earlier than Americas, so it is hard to see this moon in South Africa. Asia, you're even moving further east. So America, it was easy to see the moon. Asia, many hours before the sun is already set, so it's hard to see the moon. So you'll be able to easily see this moon in Americas, and it is possible to see this moon in Africa, in Morocco particularly. South Africa, no. So as I said, Wifaqul Ulama, every month they create this little chart and you can see what we discussed in theory. So in parts of England, it's possible to see this moon with optical aid. Possible, barely possible. Morocco, it's B. So meaning the moon is visible, right? South Africa, it's harder. It's available only. It's visible only. Sorry, by optical aid. Now take a look at these. The altitude. What was the altitude? The higher the moon gets. So you can see in Morocco it's 9 degrees and 8 degrees and so on. In England 6 degrees. South Africa a little bit higher, 7 or 8 degrees. Right. So basically, obviously the higher the moon gets, the easier for it to see it, and also the lag time. Lag time means the moon set is after sunset in these locations. So 48 minutes, 47 minutes, very good. 9 degrees, if it was even higher, it would have been even better. Okay, so you'll be able to see this moon in parts of Americas, the continent, and it's visible in Morocco. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best. Jazakallah khair. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.